So, a few years ago, I had moved overseas to begin my undergraduate studies at a pretty good school. I always recognized that I was in a privileged position to be able to attend a renowned institution with the support of my family, both emotionally and financially. However, some things don't always go as we plan them to, and only a few months into my first year, I left university to come home. Now, with that decision came a lot of guilt, disappointment, and feelings of hopelessness because for the first time in my life, I'd been faced with a big failure. And for someone who spent the entirety of her schooling years equating her worth to academic accomplishments, dropping out of school was probably just about as bad as it could get. From then on, I really struggled to find a purpose to keep going every day because my identity, which was previously bonded to my achievements, felt like it had been completely stripped away from me. And although my friends and my family tried to be there for me, it didn't really get through to me because I didn't believe that I was worth the attention or the support. But after some time, I grew sick and tired of waking up each day, hating myself and not knowing how to take care of myself. And so that is where my journey with therapy began. Therapy itself comes in many different forms. It could be through family or couples therapy. It could be through talk or art or music, and it can be facilitated by various mental health professionals, depending on the needs of the client or the patient. In my case, I attended individual talk therapy. This was a place for me to come to terms with my failures, as well as rebuild my sense of self-worth. And over time, my goals in therapy have since shifted to learning how to be a better friend, a better daughter, as well as a better partner in relationships. Although I'm aware that this is my singular experience and that I cannot speak for everyone, it is the experience of someone who spent the first 20 or so years of her life firmly believing that she'd never get to a place where she'd ever need it. And honestly, I think that this is a sentiment that many of us might be able to relate to. Over the past few years, society and its culture have evolved at a rate that is a little bit overwhelming, to say the least. With so many things happening around us, it is easy to lose touch with what's happening within us. But with the recent increased visibility as well as advocacy for mental health and its destigmatization, I believe that there are now more people than ever who've at least given therapy a thought or two. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that everyone listening today should go ahead and book a consultation right after this. Emily Anhalt's Why We Should All Try Therapy makes a much more compelling argument for that. Instead, I hope that we can all develop an appreciation for it. To be understanding and supportive of the process would make a world of a difference to that one person in your life who might one day decide that they would like the extra support. Wouldn't that alone be worth it? So without further ado, let's get into therapy, what it is and what it isn't. Number one, therapy is a safe, honest, no judgment space. I know, it sounds pretty self-explanatory, right? But the reason I've chosen to highlight this is because this statement is something that I continue to carry with me whenever I go for my sessions. And why is that so? Well, in our everyday lives, we are always subject to judgment in one way or another, whether we realize it or not. It's not always done purposefully, but everyone we interact with will have their own biases as well as life experiences that may be projected onto us. So whether it be through our everyday conversations with acquaintances, through the comment sections of our Instagram posts, or through the feedback on work that we submit to turn it in, we are always subject to judgment in all aspects of our lives. So to have a space where none of those are placed onto you, where you get to speak to someone whose job is to actively remove judgment and biases from their language and interactions with you. It's something that you just don't get every day, so it might take some time to get used to it. While your loved ones may try and provide you with a safe space, at the end of the day, they are not trained professionals with the capacity or the training to hold that space. In this no judgment zone, we are then removing the fear of being judged or being scrutinized for our thoughts and perceptions. We can then speak our minds with less of a filter. And as a result, honesty can shine through. We can then be more honest with ourselves with what we're feeling or what we're experiencing. And hopefully that'll lead us one step closer to the inner work that needs to be done. Number two, therapy is for you. You're probably thinking, well, if I'm paying for their time and their services, I sure do hope that it would be for me. But what I mean to say is therapy is a place that is dedicated solely to you, whether it be for you to heal, for you to share, for you to set goals, or to keep yourself accountable. All of these things are things that are likely to come into play during your journey in therapy. In therapy, you might speak about situations that involve other people or even express your frustrations regarding things that are out of your control. But here's the thing, because your sessions are centered around you, through therapy, you'll be able to focus on things that are in your control. When things around you become less than ideal and it elicits an unpleasant response from within, therapy will provide you with the tools to regulate and manage those emotions so that you feel more in control of your core self. This is for you to come out of therapy with more confidence in navigating life's challenges. This is for you to build healthier relationships. And this is for you to set stronger boundaries in your everyday lives. I feel that there's something special about having a sacred space where all parties involved, meaning you and your therapist, are only focused on one thing, your growth. Number 3, therapy is not only for those who experience mental illness. As I briefly touched upon earlier, there are different types of therapies available for different individuals based on their needs, and each can be facilitated by a different mental health professional. Some, like psychiatrists or clinical psychologists, are licensed to diagnose and prescribe medication when required, whereas others, such as therapists, might not be able to make diagnoses but can still provide support when needed. This means that mental health professionals are collectively equipped with the skills and the capabilities to deal with the vast majority of the population, including you and I. Much of the stigma surrounding mental health revolves around the ignorant misconception that the presence of a mental health disorder means that you are not normal. However, I would argue that trials involving our mental health is very normal and very human indeed. Some of us may feel the effects of these trials to a higher degree compared to others, but that does not mean that we are abnormal. So as we continue to educate ourselves and those around us regarding how mental health is no less important compared to our physical health, hopefully we'll one day be able to do away with the ignorant misconception that therapy is reserved for those of us who are outcasted by society. And in due time, the mention of therapy will be less taboo and more commonplace in our day-to-day lives. I myself was not diagnosed, but have found therapy to be greatly beneficial in my everyday life nonetheless. Therapy isn't merely a treatment for an illness, but it is also an avenue for us to achieve our best selves. The sooner we collectively hold this belief, the sooner that more people can access the tools at their disposal to increase the overall quality of their lives. Number 4, therapy is not simply venting about your problems. Although it is a space for you to feel and release your emotions, it is more than just an empty vessel for you to vent. Of course, the sessions will involve you speaking about yourself, your thoughts, and your experiences, but simply sitting around and venting for an hour isn't going to be too useful for you in the long run in terms of your personal growth. Therapy is a process that involves, yes, the expression of your thoughts and feelings, but it is also accompanied by the reflection of those experiences, being curious about your actions, and digging deep to understand why we respond to situations in the way that we do. So simply put, therapy is not simply speaking at your therapist. There is a lot more to it than that. We can always try to mimic these processes ourselves through journaling or through self-reflection, but similar to how your friends are not trained to guide you through life's complex situations, the presence of a trained mental health professional may provide an objective perspective into your thought patterns and decision-making. Therefore, therapy provides us with a platform for self-betterment where with the help of someone with the appropriate expertise. However, the most important piece of the puzzle is your willingness to partake in the process, as well as how open you are to discovering parts of yourselves that you otherwise probably would not have had to face without this designated safe space. It may also sometimes involve uncovering uncomfortable truths about yourself, but that is all inevitable when we choose to grow as people. Now that I've covered what therapy is and what it isn't, I think it's a good time to circle back to my personal experiences with therapy. At the beginning, I spoke about what led me to my initial consultation, as well as why I so desperately needed it at the time. But I haven't yet told you about how it's impacted my life. For one, I've learned that there are no good or bad emotions. Labeling anger or guilt as negative does more to hurt the process of healing compared to help. Giving myself the permission to feel the full range of emotions only makes me more human, not less. I've also learned to be kinder to myself. They always say, speak to yourself as how you'd speak to a friend, but we know that's easier said than done. When many of us grow up as our harshest critics, undoing years of negative self-talk is pretty difficult, and they wonder why therapy is not an overnight fix. Most importantly, it's helped me become more comfortable with uncomfortable conversations. Whether that be expressing that I feel as though my boundaries have been crossed or that my needs have not been met, I found that having these sorts of conversations does more to strengthen relationships in the long run, instead of weakening them. But like I said earlier, this is my singular experience, and everyone else's will be unique. I hope that moving forward, we will not be performative advocates for mental health, but also be true to our word and be accepting of those around us who decide to take the steps in getting the help that they need. Because at the end of the day, there is nothing more admirable than knowing what's best for you and doing right by yourself. Thank you.